Faust an Lanzenschaft, die Zügel in der Linken, so springt des Reiches Ritterschaft und ihre Schwerter blinken. Ja, und ihre Schwerter blinken. Und ihre Schwerter blinken.
Hello and welcome to Lex Orandi, Lex Credendi. I am Kenny, and this video will be on the bond of tradition, particularly the bond between traditionalists, because we do need to come together. Mostly, we need to come together in a communal fashion, because if your area is like mine and you don't have anything set up yet, then you are in desperate need of some kind of community, and you need to build that up. Because part of what I know I'm trying to accomplish here in my town, requires us to come together to build the numbers to try to get tradition back to Wichita Falls, or get a Latin Mass, whatever. We have to be able to, network with each other. I mean, not necessarily like in any kind of like official capacity, but, some kind of network of traditionalists in town, so we know who each other are. We know, who's on board with tradition, who wants this, who's going to, stand up with us when it comes time to stand up with us, and that kind of thing. And then, of course, there's prayer, which, the one thing I will have to stress, which is, again, the purpose behind this is Lex Orandi, Lex Credendi. You need to make sure that we have a good prayer life with each other. And we also need to make sure we're praying as Catholics, Lex Orandi, Lex Credendi. The law of prayer is the law of belief. So if you want a traditionalist group to be a truly Catholic group, and you want this group to grow and not end up falling into modernism, which is what we're trying to get away from, then you need to pray authentically Catholic prayers, and do not pray anything that was added after the Novus Ordo, or even, I would even say, after the Second Vatican Council. Pretty much anything pre-Vatican II is good, post-Vatican II, bad. Again, that's subject to some tweaking, because I realize that there are some people that, for example, they do pray the Luminous Mysteries. I don't pray the Luminous Mysteries because they were never part of the Rosary. That was an addition. Always felt weird even before I knew that they were added. They always just felt out of place. And whenever I found out they weren't even originally part of the Rosary, then I just like, okay, well, that just makes it easy, because I barely pray those anyway. And some may even pray the Divine Mercy. Not a big fan of the Divine Mercy. I may do it like once in a while, but it's not really a big thing with me. But get people together, pray good, authentic Catholic prayers, mainly the Rosary, all 15 decades, if you can. If not, at least do one a day. And if you're doing it with the group, if you're doing it in a group setting, which is, of course, the main thing that we're trying to get at here, you do need to come up with a plan to get together, pray together, go to adoration together. Because take that very true but overused phrase, a family that prays together stays together. Well, a trad group that prays together stays together. All right. Also, if anybody has, a business, a Catholic business, and this is whether it's trad or Novus Ordo, I don't care what they are. If they are a Catholic and they have a business, you support that business in your town. Because the idea is eventually every one of you trads in your town should have a business or be working for somebody who is a Catholic. That's ideally the route we're trying to go. Because in the next 10 years, look at your town now and look at your 10 years from now. Do you have a greater Catholic presence? That's why you support your Catholic businesses. I mean, that doesn't mean that you absolutely can't go to places like Walmart. I mean, you got to eat. So if there's no Catholic grocery store, for example, obviously you have to go to a regular grocery store. But the idea is eventually to build up that presence, and eventually all of these secular businesses start getting filtered out in your own town. We need to raise the flag of Christ the King in our town. And part of that is to build his kingdom up by taking up businesses, taking up spots in political office and so on and so forth, if you're able to. Me personally, I couldn't do it, political office. But if anybody is able to do political office, they should totally do it. And guys like me will get behind you and support you. And then, of course, why do we do this all ultimately? I mean, whether we're talking about bringing the Latin Mass, having these groups, supporting Catholic businesses, making sure you're building up the Catholic presence in your own town. It's evangelization. Because at the end of the day, none of this is going to matter if people aren't coming into the church. Yeah, okay, fine. You may save your soul, save your family's soul. But at the end of the day, if the church is not growing, then you may as well just stick with the Novus Ordo, because the Novus Ordo doesn't grow either. Matter of fact, the numbers are dwindling. And so we need to bring more people into the kingdom of our Lord Jesus Christ. And this is how we do it. Talk to people, talk to your coworkers, talk to your friends, your neighbors, whatever, whoever will listen. Give them the gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ. And yeah, you're gonna run into some resistance when you do that, because some Protestants, of course, will say, well, I already follow Christ. It's like, well, then that's when you have to unfortunately get into that awkward conversation of like, yeah, no, you don't, because you can only follow Christ in the Catholic Church. All right. We need to start coming together and seeing if we can't get, I mean, I don't know how all of this works, but talk to your priest about doing processions. Like Corpus Christi processions, for example. I don't know how far ahead we are at this point. I mean, today is May 18th. So I don't know how far out Corpus Christi is, but if anybody has the ear of their priest, other than confession and the occasional high bye, should talk to the priest about, hey, why don't we do processions? Why don't why don't we show Christ the King, here in town? Have a procession, have everybody come out with their rosaries, have people out with banners, flags, and then have the priest, walking down the street with the monstrance, with our Eucharistic Lord, and all of us praying behind him, walking through town, and then back into the church. I mean, think about how awesome that would be. I mean, especially for me here in Wichita Falls, like that kind of stuff doesn't happen here. I mean, we occasionally have like a rosary thing out in public, but that's about as far as it goes. I mean, our presence is pitiful in this town. So we need to start trying to do stuff like that. Rallies, if not necessarily like rallies to protest anything, but just to go out and put ourselves out there as the Church of Christ and give people that opportunity to talk to us. But I mean, there's plenty of things to protest. I mean, I haven't looked into it yet, but I have heard, and it really actually does not surprise me because I knew that these guys were here. But apparently there has been a satanic temple put up in my town somewhere. I have yet to go try to figure out where it's at so I can avoid it, or at least, pray to it be gone. So, I mean, there's plenty of things to rally about. And if we can come together as Catholics to, pray and do spiritual warfare against the enemies of Christ, and not just the enemies of Christ externally, but also internally. Because, I mean, we have people in the church, which is how we got the Second Vatican Council and the Novus Ordo in the first place, is the enemies of the church. So, and those were the enemies inside the church. And then they opened the doors for the enemies outside the church. So we have a massive spiritual battle that most Catholics aren't even aware that they should be having. Now, the number of people that are aware is growing, but it's not enough yet. So we need to pick up our weapon, the rosary. Start praying, start making moves against the enemies of Christ, whether they be the Satanists, somebody as blatantly an enemy as that, or a Protestant, a pagan, even modernists claiming to be Catholic within the church. I mean, all of that. We need to be praying for these people, their salvation, as well as for God to, take them out of the picture, whether that's through conversion or making them leave in one fashion or another. You also need to start trying to come up with some kind of meeting once a month at least, because I know how busy things get. There are a few people that I try to meet with regularly, and we can't even manage one once a month just because everybody's got schedules and lives to take care of. But we do try to meet, and we do try to build this kind of thing up, because everybody's going to have different ideas about how to do tradition. And so you do need to come together, and you need to formulate what your next step is, what your next move is. Are there any problems coming up? Have you heard anything from priest, bishop, whatever, that may put a kink in the system? Or have you heard anything good from the priest or the bishop, which indicates that you're making progress? Ultimately, no matter what happens, the meetings, y'all need to come together, start talking about these things so at least everybody's up to date as to what's happening, and just make it clear between all of you that, no matter what happens with the bishop or whatever, you're just not going to take no for an answer. And, that's what these meetings are for, is just keep people in the game, keep people informed, keep people aware of, the progress or non-progress that is being made, and what you need to do in order to continue on. If you're like me and you like to have these discussions over a beer, go do that. But you got to do something. We also need to take up space. This was one that Taylor Marshall actually brought up. He was pointing out that all of these stupid, alphabet people doing the story time in the libraries, and then now we have SatanCon. Now we have we've had for a while, but we've had like the month of June stolen from Catholics for sin of pride. And so when June comes around, which is not only a couple of weeks away, emphasize that it's the month of the Sacred Heart, when everybody else is putting up their satanic rainbow flags. Put up the banner of the Sacred Heart. If you don't have one, make one, or you can buy one. Doesn't matter to me how you do it. Get a large, not like a humongous one, maybe the size of like a 50-cent coin. Just something big enough that it had been noticed. Get a Sacred Heart badge, patch, pin, whatever, and wear it all that month. Even if you work at a place like a retail store or whatever. Obviously, you may have one of those bosses that'll make you not take it off. You can't wear it at work or whatever, but as much as you can, wear it during that month. So we need to take up space. If you have a yard, put up a statue of our Lord, a statue of Our Lady, a statue of a saint, whatever. Me and my wife are wanting to put a grotto in our backyard with a garden and all that. And then we're going to put a statue, probably a Sacred Heart, in our front yard now, because we have a house and we can do that kind of stuff now. So, but not just that, but also if you have a business, put up crucifixes, put up statues, put up banners, whatever. And just do it. Don't worry about what people are going to think. Don't worry about your business, because Christ said, if you deny me before man, I'll deny you before my Father. And so if you just have faith, and, if you're networking with other Catholics, then you shouldn't have to worry about your business, because we'll all support you. There was a business a while back. More than a couple of years ago. It was several years ago. A Catholic in town, not in my town, but like another. It was another state, actually. I think it was like something like Washington or whatever. Anyway, he put up a business, and since he was Catholic, he would not sell any contraceptives or anything of that nature. And anyway, so all the liberals flipped when they found out, and they called for a boycott of this guy's little shop/pharmacy. And when that happened, he went to his parish, and people at his parish supported him, and even the Protestants came out and supported him. So I mean, even the enemies of Christ come out and help you in that case, because even though they are the enemies of Christ, they believe they're following Christ. And so when they see somebody that they perceive of as one of their, air quotes, fellow Christians, then they do, come out and help. So have faith, stand up for the name of Christ, take up space, make your Catholic presence known to the world. Quit being scared. You are a soldier for Jesus Christ. We are in a spiritual warfare against the enemies of Christ in society, in our own personal lives, and in the church. Because I mean, this is the whole point to the parable of the wheat and the weeds, that, even in the church, you're going to have people that try to infiltrate, that try to come in and wreck things in the church. That has always happened, and what is going on with the Novus Ordo, the Second Vatican Council, is a perfect example of that. Now, when we make our groups, I mean, I know that I have said that we need to be charitable to the Sedevacantists, and I'm not backing off on that, because they are Catholics just like us, and when things finally get cleared up, and we do have a good pope, and the Sedes accept that pope, and we all, everything is clarified and we're all back together, we're going to have to work with these people again. I mean, not work with these people. Obviously, I'm saying to work with them now, but you know what I mean. Like, we're all going to have to, mend a lot of misspoken words about each other. Like, the Sedes speaking against us and us speaking against the Sedes and that kind of thing. I mean, even Novus Ordo Catholics speaking against trads and the Sedes, and then vice versa. I mean, we got to be able to work with these people. We got to stop condemning other Catholics for simply having theological opinions, which are very firmly based in the tradition. So, although I disagree with them, the Sedes, I think that they're wrong about their particular theological position on that subject, but everything else about them is perfectly Catholic. So, but that being said, these groups cannot be Sedevacantist. If the Sedevacantists already have their own camps, they can go and have their groups or whatever, but that does not mean that we can't welcome them into our group. It's just they have to understand we don't believe that we're in a state of sede vacante, so they're just going to have to tolerate the fact that we accept Pope Francis. So we cannot go sede, because, again, we can't accept that just because of the fact that, that's, I believe I said it before, but, the decision as to whether the Pope is legitimate or not is above my pay grade. Like, I am not, I do not have the ability, the authority, or even the knowledge to be able to make a decision like that. So, just make sure that these groups are legit. Make sure that you stand with the church at all costs. Even if your bishop's a moron, he's still your bishop. Well, anyway, so I guess in conclusion, the whole point of this is that we need to come together. We need to build, and we need to build now. We need to quit thinking that The priests are going to swoop in and fix this if we don't start bringing tradition into our own homes and start building up that tradition in the next generation. Then it's never going to get fixed. Because the reason why we're in the situation we're in right now is because people aren't teaching Catholicism. I mean, yes, they're teaching it through a Novus Ordo lens, but as we've discussed before, the Novus Ordo is very Protestantized. And so when these kids grow up, they become lukewarm Catholics or they become very bad Catholics, and we don't have any priests, we don't have anything. So we have to bring tradition back in our own homes. We have to then take our individual homes and find other homes that are doing the same, build up these groups, build up the numbers so that we can finally return tradition to our individual towns. I mean, even if for whatever reason, unfortunately, you don't get a Latin Mass there, you can find a way to get to one because you have other people you can work with. Y'all can carpool if that's what it comes down to. But take up your cross and follow Christ. And do it at all costs. Don't take no for an answer. Just do it. And make sure that you're properly worshiping and properly praying. Don't let people who might try to claim that you're like a schismatic or whatever, don't let those people get to you. Because anybody who's going to call you a schismatic for following the tradition is probably a schismatic themselves. So don't worry about it. All right. Well, pray for our bishop. Pray for our Holy Father. Pray for the restoration of the human element of the church. Pray your rosary every single day. Again, all 15 decades. If you can. If not, build up your prayer life, work towards it. Pray the Angelus. Get a brown scapular. Again, I'm still trying to find somebody who can do it, but get yourself enrolled in the brown scapular if you can. Have your weapons, have your defenses. Get your families, get your kids, get your wife, get your parents if your parents are Catholic. If they're not Catholic, try to get them Catholic. But get everybody involved. Take up the sword of Christ and fight the diabolical principalities. All right, until next time, Deus Vult.